I think I've talked about it on previous episodes, how important it is to join a community when you move here.
皆さんこんにちは、アーサーです。今回の動画ではあなたの英語のリスニングを鍛えるためのネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしたいと思います。僕がこのチャンネルとしてあなたに望んでいるのは英語を学ぶだけではなくネイティブの話す感覚を身につけることです。そのためにこういう長めのネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしております。でいつも通りに僕とアメリカ人の友達のオースティンとの会話になるんですが、今回の話題は日本にいる外国人のコミュニティ、どうやって外国人のコミュニティができているのか、どうやって日本人の友達ができているかっていう話題ですね。で、いつも通りに日本語と英語の字幕が両方ついていますので、自分のリスニングと自分の理解度も両方確認ができます。で、ちなみにですね、今回の動画はもともと The Austin and Arthur Show っていう別のチャンネルで放送されたものになります。そのチャンネルでは字幕がないのでちょっとハードルが高いんですが、いろんな話が聞きたい場合はぜひそのチャンネルをご確認ください。で、あとこれからも、月に2回ぐらいの頻度でこういう長めのネイティブ同士の会話の動画をお届けしたいと思いますので、他に聞きたい話とか、アーサーとオーセンに聞きたい話がありましたら、ぜひコメントでシェアしてください。And with that, let's get started.Let's just do cheers first. Cheers.
Right, cheers.
But yeah, like we were talking about before, the cup is uneven.
Yeah. So okay, that I've always been thinking about that because I've encountered a lot of cups here that have like this kind of slanted, kind of build to them, and It makes drinking out of them a little tricky.
Yeah.
Or I should say it makes filling them up a little tricky.
Yeah. I mean, so this thing all started with like Sen no Rikyu, the tea master who was like he would spend $10,000 to make something look like it was made from $10. Is that kind of guy. But that's where this is. I mean, I like this, but that's one of the reasons I like living here. But so we were going to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about communities, communities of foreign...
Sorry, before I just want to tell you, Austin is feeling a lot better. You just coughed a little bit, but not because of your sickness. A lot of people are like, Austin, no daijini, I hope you get better.
I was looking at the comments, guys, because I do look at the comments for videos, so I appreciate that. Thank you for worrying about my physical and mental health.
Yeah. But you're all great. Sorry, keep on going.
Yeah, I'm shaved up a little bit too. I made my beard a little smaller. My wife the other day was commenting on my beard, and I was like, "Do you like my beard?" She's like,
"Yeah,
I'd like you to make it a little smaller." Actually, her words were a little upsetting. She specifically said to make it look like Arthur's beard.
Oh.
Yeah, my wife likes your beard apparently.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like because facial hair isn't like super big here.
Yeah.
But so when I first got here, I had a bigger beard.
Yeah.
But Natsumi was like, when you go meet my grandparents, you have to shave your beard.
Oh,
and so I did it. I had a huge baby face in the beginning. I look at those pictures and she was like, yeah, you should just have a beard. So now I go up there, but before I go up there, I make sure that I trim it very well and it looks very nice.
Yeah.
Because then they'll accept it. But if it's a little bit scraggly, no.
I think my goal, because I've been kind of experimenting. I know this is not the topic, but I love beards. Yeah. I've been experimenting a little bit this past summer with beards and kind of like just kind of diving into beard culture. I carry a beard comb.
You have a beard comb?
Yeah,
I want one.
Yeah, I usually I didn't carry it with me now because my beard's a little bit too short to comb it now. But before I used to carry a beard comb everywhere, and it's like, you just comb it.
Yeah.
But one of the I've kind of like settled on a goal that I want with this beard, and you've seen the movie 300, like King Leonidas, where he's got his like pointed beard like that. So I think that's what I'm gonna go for. So I'm gonna try to grow like this part out.
Well, so where I'm from in the States, there's a big Greek population. And I saw a dude with like a full Spartan beard kind of thing. And I for the longest time, I thought that was like a stylized beard because they were making like bronze statues and it was hard to make it really like lush looking. But no, this guy had just straight. Yeah, like, it was amazing. It's like you could cut glass with that beard.
Oh man, it just looks so cool.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to go for. And Hopefully I'll have lost a little bit of weight by then too, because it's like you don't want a fat guy with like a cool Spartan beard. You want like a skinny guy or like a buff guy.
Yeah.
So
you just, as long as the missus is happy, that's the most important, man.
Yeah, it's true.
So as you were saying, we were going to talk about?
Yes. So we're going to talk about foreigners who live here in Japan, and they've managed to group up with groups of either people from their own country or people like of a similar culture, and kind of like things that maybe they would like to see change here.
Yeah.
So I personally am in a board gaming community.
Yeah,
here.
you're in a board gaming community.
And I would say probably 90% of the people in my community are European.
Yeah. Because board games are super white, man.
They are.
Yeah.
But I mean, we do have people of other races, but yeah, it's mostly a white guy thing.
Yeah.
And first of all, I will say that I think I've talked about it on previous episodes, how important it is to join a community when you move here. Because there's a lot of people who end up moving to Japan and they're not Japanese and they don't have any friends.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly asked, like, I get asked this at work. I get asked this, people I meet. It's like, I don't understand how you have friends. Like, you always talk about going and hanging out with your friends on the weekend and going and doing stuff with your friends. Like, how do you make friends? And it's just like, I don't go to the friends store and be like, well, I'd like one of those friends, please.
Buy one, get one free.
Oh my God. Wow. You have the same hobby as me. What a coincidence. Like, no, that's not how you make friends.
To be honest, if there was a friend store somewhere, it would probably be in Japan.
Yeah. That's actually really sadly true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's you don't go out looking for friends. You go out looking for a place to participate in your hobby. So for my example, one of the hobbies that I'm really connected to is a game called Warhammer. So it's like a tabletop game. You build like plastic models and stuff. You build and I don't paint them. I actually pay my friend to do it, but you go play games with that, right? And it's kind of like a nerdy thing, but it's a big social thing.
Yeah,
right?
It's a community thing.
It's a really big social thing. I would compare it to stuff like Magic the Gathering, the card game. So you go out to places and you play with people, right? And so when I moved over here, it's like, yeah, I was really enthusiastic, to participate in Japanese culture and, experience Japan, but I'm not Japanese.
Yeah.
And because I'm not Japanese, that means there's part of me that still wants that like side of American culture that I was used to. It's like, when people move over here, they still have part of them that, wants to connect to their culture and their identity, right? And so that's what I did when I first moved over here. I looked out and sure enough, it's Tokyo. You can find any community in Tokyo. And I found a Warhammer community, and that's how I made my first friends when I moved here. I just, there was a line group that I joined for the store, and I started talking with some guys, and it's like, hey, cool, you live here in where's David? He lives in Setagaya, right? Which is kind of up near Shibuya. And he's like, oh man, dude, you live like 40 minutes away from me. Let's go meet up and let's play a game, right? And so my friendship kind of evolved with that. And now it's like, I mean, you met David. He came to my wedding.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
He's a really good friend of mine now. And it's like a lot of my friendships have evolved because of these communities, right? So for the sake of your mental health, and I would say your social health as a person, if you're moving over here, that I cannot stress enough how important it is to not necessarily look out and find a community, but understand what your hobby is. If you have one, if you don't have one, get a hobby, and then find a place to do your hobby, and you will make friends doing that. It's like I always hear about people who are really into like bouldering.
Yeah, bouldering.
And so they'll go places and, it turns out they'll just meet people bouldering and, now you have a friend and you have a little buddy to do that with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, so to be honest, like that's not the reason why I got into it, but that's one of the reasons why I'm still really deep in this whole coffee world and stuff, because I've met so many people through this, not even just in Japan, but outside of Japan too. You know, like I got invited to go to Milan for something. That was really cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, no, I know about that.
Yeah, and then I got invited to go to like a coffee exhibition here, but it wasn't just that. It's like making connections with people.
So you were telling me about that exhibition, and wasn't the company that you like kind of like hung out with and volunteered? They were from the Philippines, right?
Yeah, right. So what happened was I have for all of you guys who like coffee, I have a channel for American people where I make coffee using a very strange espresso machine. And it's very nerdy, but I like it. And
it's a really heavy metal box.
Yeah, it's a very heavy metal box. It's like 20 kilos almost. Yeah. But yeah, so I would basically just make coffee on that channel and film it. Yeah. And someone from the Philippines was like, hey, we have this Filipino coffee. We want to show that Filipino coffee is good. Can you make some coffee on your channel? And I did. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And then just like last week, this person's living in Japan, by the way. And they're just like, hey, we have the Tokyo Coffee Expo. And can you come help us? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And what was interesting for me was, so I went to this exhibition and it was for Japanese people. So it was like mainly Japanese people who were going. But even though it was a coffee exhibition, so many people were like, hey, are you Arthur from YouTube? About my English YouTube channel, right? Yeah. Because coffee's super international. So a lot of people into coffee also are learning English. And it's like, oh, that's how it melds, you know?
Yeah. And it's really interesting. Like, you know, it's kind of the same thing in my community, how I would say my community is still predominantly foreigners, but we've melded into the Japanese community as well. Like my local gaming spot is this hole in the wall izakaya that's underground in Yokohama.
Oh, really?
It's like I'm gonna be honest. This building's really dirty.
Yeah.
Like you go there and you're just like, what is this place? Yeah. This seems really kind of sketchy. But you know, the guy we hang out there, he's this older Japanese guy. He's kind of a nerdy guy who's been in the community for a while. He opened up this gaming izakaya there, and so that's where we play. Yeah. And you know, over time, like we've had Japanese people join our community, and it's great. So it's like it really feels like an international group now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do have to say though, so speaking of what you were saying is really good for foreigners when they first come here, but what I've also noticed is I've had not many, I don't actually have many friends. I have some friends that I'm so lonely. No, so I remember I had a friend who lived in Japan and he wanted to move here, but he couldn't speak Japanese very well. And he ended up like having no Japanese friends, and he was only hanging out with English speaking people. And like the Japanese people that he did meet were already fluent in English. And it was kind of an interesting thing because he was living in Japan. Yeah. But he didn't have to use Japanese at all. And then he was talking about how his Japanese is not improving. But then he didn't he would try to improve his Japanese a little bit, but then he'd just hang out with people speaking English. And it's like, I see a lot of foreigners here, they kind of isolate themselves and they just like stay only with foreigners here.
Yeah. I definitely see that. I mean, I've met a number of like English teachers here that have been living here for like 17, 20 years, and they can't speak a lick of Japanese.
Well, to be honest, the only friend that I made at the school that I used to work at was you.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it's probably because we both spoke the same language, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, if you're in a situation where you're worried about only being exposed to English, I don't know if this works for everybody, but this works for me. I hate studying. Yeah. I absolutely hate studying, and I've tried studying Japanese, and I just can't sit down and read a book. That's just not how I learn things. Yeah. I had the same problem when I was in school, like when I was in high school and, you know, when I was in university. It's just, I just can't open a book and get that information out. Yeah. I need to play with it. Yeah. Right. And, so I found that, like, I've talked with my wife before, and I've talked with people at my school before. It's like, okay, we're gonna have like a Japanese day where it's like we don't try to speak English at all. Yeah. And I found what happens when I'm in that situation, I just get tired.
Yeah.
And it becomes not fun.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like I don't want to do this, and it's like it just feels like bothersome to do it. So what I ended up doing is I just put myself in situations where I can't use my English.
Yeah.
But I'm not like forcing myself to speak Japanese. I just can't use my English.
Yeah.
Right. And so
like, what's a situation like
that?
So
a perfectly good situation is at work, I try and talk to the teachers. Right. Not the English department teachers. I mean, like I try to have relationships with the other teachers at my school, or like math, history, Japanese, like all those teachers. And none of those teachers speak English.
Yeah.
And so, it'll just be simple. It started off with simple conversations like, oh, hello, how was yesterday? That kind of thing. And over time, I got more confident with my Japanese ability. And it's the same thing at home. Like my wife, I mean, Yui's English is pretty all right.
Yeah.
But Yui prefers to speak Japanese.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's once again put me in this situation where, I mean, I could use my English, but it's just kind of troublesome for her. So like we'll use Japanese a lot. And again, it's one of these situations where it's just like, I'm not forcing myself to speak. I can't use my English.
Yeah.
And that has like skyrocketed my progression for learning Japanese, because it doesn't feel like I'm learning.
Yeah.
It just feels like I'm living in Japanese language.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge difference. Like I don't feel burnout at all.
Well, that's what I have my students do, and that's why they improve, Yeah. Because like the whole thing is like English and Japanese, whatever, they're tools for communication, right?
Yes.
And like if you could speak in English, but you're going to try and speak in Japanese, that makes no sense, because you can communicate better in English. Yeah. And that's like saying I have a screw.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use, it's like what do you call it, plus sign? No, Phillips is the flathead, right? What do you call it? Plus sign?
No, Phillips is the plus sign.
Oh, Phillips is the plus sign? Okay.
Yeah.
Dude,
I think. Oh, God. Anyways, now you're making me double.
Okay. So
I'm not a handyman. I'm not.
I know.
I maybe have to give up my man card now.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, I'll give you my man card now. So like a plus head screw.
Yeah.
And you're going to use a flathead screwdriver to open it, right? You could do it, but it's not made for that, you know? That's like trying to use Japanese when you could use English.
Yeah.
You have to use Japanese, and then you'll actually use it and improve.
Yeah. And it's just like, I think I want to do, it's my turn to do a little analogy now.
Okay.
I want to throw my analogy out there. I think of it as like a bicycle in like a car.
Okay.
Right. And let's say you live like 45 minutes away from your work.
Drive?
By driving your car. Right. And you could take your bicycle there, but it's going to take like 2 hours to get there. And it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Right? It's just far easier, far more comfortable to drive your car.
Yeah.
However, if you just want to go to like your local supermarket, which is like, I don't know, like 2 minutes from your house, it's more comfortable to ride your bike.
Yeah,
You don't have to look for parking, So it's like, if you're putting yourself in situations where it's comfortable for you to use the language, that's when you're going to pick up and learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like I'll get students at my school. I know this is not anywhere near the topic, but I love talking about this.
Go for it.
I'll get students at my school who are like really hardcore into studying English.
Yeah,
and it's like I constantly tell my students that like English is not a language like math.
Yeah,
right. If you study math, you can learn math.
Yeah,
you actually, if you're good at studying, you actually don't need a math teacher.
Yeah, right.
Right? You just need to understand how things work and then be able to apply that yourself, and boom, you'll understand math. It doesn't work that way with English.
Yeah,
you can't just look at English and be like, get in my head, I will learn this language. Like that's not
get in my head, English. Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, because like I would say the best comparison to learning a language is exercising.
Well, I would say it's like riding a bike.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By exercising, same thing.
Yeah. And it's like, you'll get people who go to the gym and are just like, oh, I want to be buff. I want to be buff now.
Yeah.
And they'll just be like, just powerlifting every single day. And it's just like, lifting weights, you'll get buff from lifting weights. But what really happens is putting yourself in a routine and putting yourself into a discipline that you'll stick to something. And that's the same with language. It's just like putting yourself into a situation that you're going to be using this language and you're not going to get tired of it.
Dude, you're just like advertising my program right now.
Join Arthur's program.
Thank you. I teach you how to make friends with English speakers so that you don't have to study English. You just improve anyways.
Yeah.
I'm just like listening to this. I'm like, I did not pay Austin to say this, but this is a great advertisement.
So Arthur, that'll be $10,000, please.
Okay, I'll give you 20.
Yeah, if you could just fund my my education for the next 2 years.
I'll do that. Oh, man, I would love to if I had that money, but I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's kind of like ironic what I see, because so I know that there are some people who come to Japan and like, let's say they're immigrants from other countries, like maybe Southeast Asia or from India or something, or even Africa, they'll come here and they're coming here to live, to have a better life, whatever. And they tend to stick into their communities, right?
Yeah.
And you also have that with like the Europeans or the Americans who come here too.
Oh, very much
but
so.
I feel like it's for different reasons. Like I feel like for most of Americans who come here and do that, it's just because you're lazy.
Yeah.
I
definitely get that. I mean, I kind of think it depends on the situation. Like, I think, like you'll see a lot of Americans here that are in the military.
Okay.
And you can kind of give those guys a little bit of a break because it's like, for many of them, they didn't really choose to live in Japan.
And they're forced to live on the base.
Yeah, and they're forced to live on the base. So it's like something that I actually... I guess this kind of goes against the topic, but something I actually want to praise Japan for is probably Tokyo more than the whole of Japan, but they've actually made it really accommodating to people who have no Japanese skill whatsoever.
Yeah, that is true.
Honestly, don't even understand Japanese culture. Yeah. I think Tokyo is very, very accommodating. Like, if you're coming here and you literally know nothing about Japan, you can come to Tokyo now and navigate around and visit stuff. Whereas I think like 15 years ago, that was an impossible task. Yeah. There was no way, like nowadays, like the trains have updated. So many especially the JR trains in Tokyo have the little computers, which are really easy to read. Cause I'm going to be honest with you. I've been living here 7 years and that stupid map that hangs up in the subway, I cannot understand what that map is saying. They have like 10 different train lines and they have like a rainbow of trains coming around. Yeah. And it's like, this train's going and stopping at this stop. And I'm just like, oh man, I didn't even look and see what kind of train. Am I in the Futsu Densha? Are we on the Tokyo Densha? Like, I didn't even look, you know? So I really appreciate having the like the computers and stuff. It's really great that a lot of like the signs have started changing, like having Japanese and English, and actually they'll have Chinese and Korean now in many places too. So I feel like Japan's really made an attempt to like open themselves up. And
they also have like a lot of like translation services or interpretation services, especially at the shiyakusho, the kuyakusho areas, which I think is really nice. The one small little itty bitty thing that I really wish is recently I've had to experience going to the immigration office, and so I don't know what the DMV is like in Japan. I don't know what that is. That's up here.
I like to imagine that place is
what's the DMV?
So the Department of Motor Vehicles. If you talk to an American, that is basically hell.
Yeah, it's where you get your driver's license and do car-related stuff.
Yeah, so everyone hates that place. And I get similar feelings when I go to the immigration office here. Specifically, one thing that I would like to see change, and I think a lot of foreign groups would really appreciate this, is just maybe toning down the bureaucracy a little bit, because I'll tell you, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to tell you this last story. So I needed to renew my visa, and I live in Kanagawa, right? So I went to the immigration office in Kanagawa, and we went through this paperwork and sat there for 3 hours, and then the guy couldn't speak any English, but I brought my wife, so we could translate stuff. And we got all this paperwork filled out, and then he's like, "Oh, well, you don't have this, so come back tomorrow." And it's like, okay, come back tomorrow, right? Start filling out everything. We're there for another 3 hours. We get everything done, and like my daughter's with us. It's this really uncomfortable situation, and we get everything filled out. And then after everything's filled out, he comes up and is like, so actually your Zairyu card was issued in Tokyo, and I can't help you.
Yeah, you have to do it in Tokyo now,
and I'm
right?
just like, you waited this long to tell me? Like, so it's just like, dude, come on. So, we had to go in to Shinagawa and, go through that process and everything and do everything all over again. And eventually it got solved, but it's just like, I think there's a lot of foreign groups that get really frustrated with a lot of like the bureaucracy here.
I feel like, so if that was kind of in the United States, I would understand, because like there's a lot more division between the states in Japan, but in Japan the prefecture, but in Japan the prefectures are all kind of united, you know, and it's like, so like I feel like they could communicate and talk with each other a little more.
It's Kanagawa and Tokyo. We're not even talking about like Shizuoka or like Yamanashi or something. It's like, you're telling me that Kanagawa and Tokyo can't talk to each other to make this paperwork work? Anyways.
So there are parts that are friendly to foreigners, parts that are still very bureaucratic. But if you can make friends, if you want to make friends, you can make friends. And for all foreigners who come to Japan, especially Tokyo, it's very easy to make friends. Don't use that as an excuse and say you can't make friends. If you can't make friends, please leave a comment here and we will criticize you.
That's the reality.
No, we'll help you as best as we can. Thanks. All right, man. This is good talking to you. See you. I did it again. This is good talking to you. See you next time. 最後までご覧いただき誠にありがとうございます。やっぱり英語が話せるようになったら、こういう風にネイティブと話したいなと思う方が多いと思うんですが、問題があります。英語をたくさん学ぶのに、いきなり外国人を対面するってなると、頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこないという問題に毎回なります。僕自身も日本語を4年間勉強したのに、実際に日本に行ってみたら全く喋れなくて、本当に悔しかったです。でもその経験のおかげで実際に話せるようになった方法も分かって、今みたいに話せるようになりました。もしあなたは今の英語学習で満足している場合は全然問題ないです。こちらの動画をご覧ください。でももしあなたは英語を学ぶだけではなく、実際に外国人の話せるようになりたいのであれば、僕と僕の数百人の生徒が実際に話せるようになった方法を無料ガイドにまとめてみました。And you can get that free guide by clicking up here or by clicking the link in the description box below. As always, enjoy your English adventures. これからも一緒に世界とつながりましょう. See you next time!